Joy.
Hi, Catherine.
Do I look like I'm in the dark?
Now we're about to hit the air.
Okay,
So
darling.
we're on. Hi, Bev. Seems as though Bev is frozen.
Bev is frozen.
Yeah, there she is.
There she is, frozen rock solid. Good evening, Beverly.
Good evening, George. I am having serious internet difficulties. So it is going to be some kind of show tonight. But good evening, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Mek We Chat. And boy, do we have things to talk about. Hey, hey.
Never a dull moment, eh? Never a dull moment.
Hell on powder house. It's like we live in a powder keg. We just keep blowing up. Just
Yep.
keep blowing up, but welcome as usual to all those who take the time to join us on a Thursday. Still the happiest place on internet radio, right here in the chat room with the usual suspects. Well, we have one rooster in the hen house tonight, so let us see
And look at him blush. Oh my God, he's blushing. Oh
because far we are seeing George Grant at the controls. We're seeing Margaret over there in the New York diaspora. We're seeing Catherine over there in the UK diaspora and Beverley Sinclair. Right, so we are going to get the show on the road, and as we drive along, we will see who else will join us tonight. We have one apology for absence. Last minute thing is keeping away our suspect in St. Kitts, and our suspect from St. Vincent has also sent a note that he will be late. So we hope that as the evening wears on, he will join us. So, how's your week, George?
How was my what?
Your week so
My
far?
my week so far has been good, girl. I have been going to the beach every morning and feel
That's
very
great.
invigorated. And after having my daily diet of sea grapes, I mean, you come back into the studio here, you feel on top of the world. So
All right.
yes, it's been a great week.
no. Yeah, he comes boasting too.
Yeah, man. I
Yeah.
can't help it. I cannot help it. It's something to boast about.
Well, I know that Catherine hasn't been to the beach every morning.
No, I've been here every morning. I've been to the beach. No, I haven't been to the beach this summer either.
Oh, you go
At
to
the,
the beach
Wow.
there?
yeah, the South Coast, it's called Brighton, Brighton Beach.
How is that?
Yeah, it's about like an hour drive away from me.
Okay, okay.
The South Coast, that's the coastal, yeah, that's the South Coast I will go to. Yeah, it's lovely out there though.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Like
I didn't go
Grandad's?
there. Uh,
Like
I didn't go there
Grandad's?
this summer. Yes, George?
Is it like Grandad's?
No, it's not sandy. It's a little stones, little pebbles. It's not even
Nice.
sand. Yeah,
Ew.
Nice.
it's like gravel, but it's really nice actually. And that's the place I got the best fish and chips in this
Ooh.
country. In a pub there. That's the perfect fish and chips you'll ever get in that place in Brighton.
You know,
Yeah.
Catherine, I'm
Nice.
glad you
The,
mentioned fish and chips.
uh,
I'm glad that you mentioned fish and chips. I'm a
yeah.
big lover of fish and chips. And
Is it?
on one of my trips to England, my first trip to London, I just couldn't wait to get there so that I could have real, authentic fish and chips, wrapped up in
Mm-hmm.
newspaper and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Catherine, they took me to a restaurant, and it was the lousiest fish and chips I had ever
Yeah.
had in my life.
I believe you, darling.
This thing
Yes,
was
definitely.
greasy,
Yeah.
greasy. Ah,
Soggy and it's horrible. Yeah, don't go into this fish and chip place and thing. That's the best fish and chip you ever get is authentic English fish and chip in Brighton, that pub there. Wow.
is it called
You'll
a
never
Beach
forget
Street
it.
Pub?
Sorry?
Is it called the Beach Tree Pub? John is asking.
Yeah, in Brighton.
What's the name of the pub? Is it the Beach Tree Pub?
It could be. I can't really actually remember.
Okay.
But that pub there is, man, that's fantastic. Yeah, it could be, but I can't remember the name.
All right, just
Very
email
nice.
some fish and chips to us. We'll be most appreciative of it.
Yeah, the best one. Like when I went to New York, Margaret, a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
I tasted KFC. I didn't like KFC, but my best chicken is Popeye's chicken. That was fantastic in New York.
Popeye
No,
chicken.
no, no. I agree. I agree. I like
That
Popeyes as
that was
well.
my best chicken in Popeye
Yeah,
chicken
yeah,
in
yeah,
New
yeah,
York.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have Popeyes. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
And by the way, since we're talking food, Beverly, um,
Yes, George.
you said Jerry is going to be late or he's not coming.
He said he'd be late.
Okay, just in case I forget, because it slipped me last week. A few weeks ago, we were talking about nuts on the program here,
Mm-hmm.
and I mentioned that I'm a big fanatic when it comes to cashew nuts. All right? Well, Beverly showed up here. Was it this week or last week? Last week. Hello, Bev.
Last week.
Last week.
Beverly showed up here
Yes, it was last week.
Beverly showed up here one day last week with a container with 2.5 pounds of cashew nuts. 2.5 pounds, which apparently somebody sent to Jerry. The person heard me mention on the program that I'm a big lover of cashew nuts. And so he or she decided to send to Jerry, and Jerry got it to Bev, and Bev got it to me. You know something, guys? Within 3 days, those 2.5 pounds of cashew nuts were gone.
That's exactly what he does, Bev. That's
Oh
exactly it.
my goodness.
Yeah,
He
I
sits
love
and he
them.
gorges on the nuts.
You
You
see,
Oh
can't
my
blame him.
goodness. Of
it would last you guys a lot longer because you people have this habit of,
course.
you go, you take one little nut and you go, one little nut. No, 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 no. No, I go by, I call it a grab, a handful of nuts. I mean, that's the way you eat cashew nuts, you know?
Oh man. I can't believe that jar of nuts finished
Oh
already.
yeah, I believe it, Bev. I
Gonna
believe it.
last.
3 days,
Oh
Bev.
my
Mhm.
goodness.
3 days. All right, before you get into your rundown, just let me say hi to some of the people out here who are with us. John says he's ready for the dropouts tonight. You know, because of the topics we're going to be talking about tonight, John is pre-anticipating that there are going to be dropouts tonight. Claude Putna is saying good night and wishing everybody a blessed Thursday. Um, somebody named Kelameti Lave, I think it is, says, God bless George. Good night from Zurich. Hello, Zurich. Nice to see you, sir. Enjoy your talk show and have a blessed Thursday to you all. Thank you very much. We send our blessings to you too, Lave. And he says, try the fish and chips in Fiji. Then you will know.
Mm.
Um, and John says, the Beach Tree Pub is the only beach near Catherine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
John says, get out, Satan, a new mug. Oh, now I get it. Now I get it.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
Now I.
that's what I was thinking. Exactly.
Beverly, I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if you were on the program with us this morning, but John mentioned that there's a new mug on the way. You know, we have the Dogo Day mug, we have the Moni mug, and what's the other one? Uh,
Diliga.
the Dilligaf mug. Well, he has now come up with a new one. Get out, Satan.
That's right.
Oh
But if
no.
If there is ever one that needs some kind of artistic impression, that's the one.
Yeah.
Because we need
Mm-hmm.
to show the, I'm going to make up a word now. We need to show the rebuke of Satan. Word.
Oh, I thank my dearly beloved government. I love them.
You
I love them.
guys, I tell you, no behavior whatsoever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, dear
Um,
Jesus. I tried my best with these children, but I don't know.
Don't give up.
You
Don't
mean
don't give up on them, Mags.
you mean we're not making you proud, Max?
I mean, there's no behavior in these children. These children and them, I tell you,
Anyhow.
they're too much.
no. But you see, that is what happens when there is no behavior from people who are supposed to set examples. And we're going to go very slowly through the menu tonight because the other suspects who will be here to come on board so we can have fuller and wider discussion on the issues. But definitely we're going to start with the devil thing. You know, we understand that in Grenada this week we have a senator who is also supposed to be a pastor, I understand, who was throwing out the devil out of someone that I guess we believe the person is possessed by Satan. So
Oh, dear.
he thinks it's his duty to get the devil out. You know, I remember, I know this song. You know, we like to pretend to sing on this program already. There was this song that goes something like, shut the door, keep the devil out. Shut the door, keep the devil on the outside. Something so. I'm not a big follower of religious songs, sorry, but I remember that one. Shut the door and keep the devil out. Something so.
Just don't give up your daytime job.
Look, I don't make enough money this thing, you know, because some of them voices and lyrics that I hear, I believe I can stand up right there with them. Don't give up the daytime job just yet. But to give some background to this thing for those of our listeners and viewers who do not know the whole story or haven't heard the whole story as yet, I will recount the situation according to what was posted by one of the individuals involved. Now, every week in Grenada, Grenada hosts a post-cabinet press conference, which is commendable because most of the islands in the Caribbean do not do that. I think Jamaica is probably the only other country that I know of that religiously has a post-cabinet briefing every week after the cabinet meeting. It's a commendable initiative, and I think it's necessary because many decisions that are taken in cabinet affect our lives, affect what we do. They do not all need parliamentary approval to go forward. So I think it is important that when cabinet meets, the cabinet members take a decision on who will interface with the media and advise of what happened in the meeting. So it's a very good initiative that I applaud. Now, these post-cabinet briefings are held on a Tuesday, open to all media practitioners. This past Tuesday, media practitioners turned up for the meeting as usual. And according to one journalist, Calista Faria, after the formal press conference had ended, she went to get an additional story from one of the ministers who hosted. The conference this week was incidentally hosted by two female ministers, representative for St. Mark, Dr. Clarice Modest Kerwin, and the representative from Periaku and Petite Martinique, that's John's representative, Kindra Maturin Stewart. Senator Winston Garvey was there. I'm still not clear if he answered any questions or made any presentation in the press conference, but he was there. He was at the end of the table. Be that as it may, after the conference was over, Callistra, according to what she posted on her Facebook page, went to get an additional story from the parliamentary rep for St. Mark, and incidentally, Callistra is also from St. Mark. She wanted to ask the rep, she said, about some killing which had happened in the constituency. Senator Garraway decided that she should not ask the question or that the minister should not respond, and inserted himself physically between the journalist and the minister. The minister, according to the report, was not averse to answering the question, but she actually said, well, he's quite prepared to respond accordingly. But the senator decided that the reporter should not get an answer to the question, so he shoved her to the ground and proceeded to review her. As far as I know, I'm still trying to get a recording of the audio, but words to the effect that she's a liar and she's the devil and rebuking the devil to get out of her and things along that line. Very obviously. Now, the press secretary observed, because I saw a picture with her standing there. The minister she was trying to ask the question was there. The other member of parliament was there. I understand the president of EMWA, who is a woman as herself, was there. And the senator who was, he's a member of the upper house of parliament. He's a lawmaker. And he abused the journalist. And I'm not even trying to find any diplomatic way to say it. He verbally abused her. He assaulted her. Well, generally, when people think they are possessed with devils, they voluntarily go to these people that they think can cast out the devils. They do not fall victim to being abused, being hit to the ground against your will, with this man standing over in this threatening manner, screaming abuses at the woman on the ground. And today is Thursday. It is Thursday night. 2 days have gone since this incident, and none of the righteous groups in Grenada, as far as have made a sound about this beating of the journalists by the Senate.
And you know what, Bev? I really don't expect any of them to say anything. Neither do I expect to hear any comment from ML, which is even worse than the righteous. I honestly do not expect to hear anything from them. This is another one that, and it goes back to the same thing I was saying. When previous things happen, unless they realize that an attack on one is an attack on all, it will continue to happen. Every single media house should have issued a statement, should have done something about it. I mean, I've been hearing rumors, I don't know whether or not it's true, that GBN was ordered to destroy the video. I do not know if that is true.
I heard that.
So I'm qualifying that by saying I'm hearing rumors of that. But we have all seen the picture, and the picture itself. I mean, just the picture of her on the ground with this person in this menacing fashion over her, pointing his finger. I mean, it's really, really, really not a good sight to behold. And it's just another attack on journalism. And it's interesting, again, it was Callistra who had asked that question that led to the rebuke by the press secretary.
Who being in the picture quite undisturbed.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Who seems to be, that's just another day at the office.
Yes. And I absolutely share your sentiments, Margaret, that I don't expect to hear anything out of these groups who tend to be advocates for violence to stop violence against women. I really don't, because when the incident happened during the carnival season with the managing director, the CEO of Mount Pure, when that incident happened, she was assaulted by the CEO of the Spice Mass Corporation. Until today, not one of these groups have come out to say anything. As a matter of fact, it is said, oh, this is not a gender issue. And I said then that we are institutionalizing domestic violence in this country, because when male figures in authority threaten, assault, abuse women in any form and fashion, especially in public places when they are going about their legitimate business. Although I mean, when the incident happened in the Spice Mass Corporation, you heard all kind of stories, and you still even now hear people talking about it was provocation. If when men are provoked, they cannot control themselves, they need not to occupy those positions that they occupy. These public offices, go in your private business and do whatever you want. But if you are in a public office and a woman can provoke you to the extent where you have to hit her, where you have to shove her to the ground, you ought not to be in that office. Welcome, Athy. And you probably missed the story about the assault on a female journalist by one of our senators, who is a pastor.
Oh, yeah.
Shoved her to... Yes, the short of the story, since you're just coming in, and I definitely want to hear your views on this. It's after the weekly post-cabinet press briefing. The journalist was seeking to ask a question of one of the members of parliament who hosted the conference. And this senator who was there decided that she should not get an answer to the question. So he physically placed himself between her and the MP she was asking the question, shoved her to the ground, proceeded to abuse her physically, words to the effect that she's a liar, she has the devil, and he's rebuking the devil out of her, something along that line, because he's, you know, he's supposed to be a pastor, so he has some special connection with the devil. He knows who the devil is, you know, because the Bible says the devil roams to and fro and up and down in the earth. So I guess because he's a pastor, he knows exactly where the devil is at any given time. And at that time, he perceives that the devil was in this woman. So he's rebuking the devil. And if you see that picture, I think I sent you a link in your email. And the
Okay.
standing over her in a menacing and threatening manner. And the press secretary, who is a female, is there, quite undisturbed. The MP, who is a female, is there. The MP she was trying to ask the question is there, quite undisturbed. I understand the president of the Media Workers Association, who is a woman, was there, quite undisturbed. And the other MP who hosted the news conference that morning, also a woman, was there. None of these four women in positions of leadership intervened. None of them. None of them have said a word. And I am really, really outraged by this institutionalizing of abuse against our women in this country of Grenada. You hear all kinds of excuses. And when you joined there, I was referring to the incident which happened during Carnival, when the CEO of a water company went to see the CEO of the Spice Mass Corporation, who is a male figure. And she ended up being hit with a door, falling on the floor herself. And there have been all kind of nonsense about that. Oh, it was provocation. She had no business being there. You know, in other words, what is being said is that when, as a woman, when you venture where you're not supposed to go, you get your licks, take it. You are in a public office, and whether people come there uninvited or not, whether people provoke you or not, if you cannot control yourself, you ought not to be in that office. And as a senator, a lawmaker, someone who sits in the upper house of our parliament, someone who claims to be a pastor, who is supposed to be a community leader, who has a wife, who has children, who is supposed to be setting examples in this country, who is supposed to be a leader, someone for people to follow. And the example he's setting that it's okay to deck a woman, shove her down, because domestic violence is institutionalized. And as long as you're part of the ruling class and you're protected, you can beat any woman, treat her anyhow, because you get away with it, there's no repercussions. Take the lift on.
But you know, I have a natural aversion to these kinds of incidents, but I'm also clear that it is not as much gender driven as what you intimated earlier, that it is a general malaise in the society, because there are women in powerful positions in Caribbean society who are visiting violence on other women and other men. Now, this is not to excuse any brand of violence, but it is to say that we must be careful not to miss the forest for the trees. The kind of powerlessness that you intimate is which is the response that we seem to be generalizing, getting as a general reality in the Caribbean, where people who used to be able to stand up for what they know to be right, all of a sudden there's an entire generation or two that does not understand where their feet are and what is the purpose of their feet, which is not to just walk, but is to stand up, to take a stand. And when you juxtapose the circumstances that you describe with the position, with the other reality of powerful women behaving just like their male counterparts, it makes it difficult for us to sensitize women purely on the basis of this being a gender-driven phenomenon. We had an incident today in Dominica, which I'm sure you don't know about, because it only unfolded today, of one male journalist entering the studio where another male journalist was engaged in a live broadcast and threatening to smash him with a chair on the air. And having been subdued by workers from the news department in that radio station, he left the station saying he will be back. He came back in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, to be more precise, armed with a cutlass.
Whoa.
What?
And had to be physically restrained by two male newsroom employees from going back into the studio, the broadcast studio, where this journalist was still in live broadcast. They subdued him, they took the cutlass away, and he left. And on his way out, he said, "I will get him on the street." This is one journalist speaking to another journalist.
Wow.
That just happened in Dominica today. This one journalist who is the perpetrator of this is an employee of the state broadcast radio, which is DBS radio. The other journalist works at Q95. The journalist who was live on air and whose life was threatened live. Okay?
This journalist who threatened him has not yet been arrested.
As of now, no. As of now, no.
Ooh.
Wow.
So these are phenomena that are unfolding. I mean, I'm looking at George in his studio there, and I'm just imagining something like that happening. George is on air now, live, and somebody walks in and threatens him. That's what happened today.
Wow.
The employees of that radio station were totally traumatized, as you can imagine.
I can imagine.
They actually let this guy in. The guy came in the first time around. He's a one, you could say he's a senior journalist. And he came in and he said, I would like to see Mr. So-and-so. And they said, of course, go on up. He's been an interview guest in that radio station on several occasions by that same journalist. He said, I want to see Matt. So he said, I'm going up. He said, he's on here, but I'm sure you can go in. He wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
There was so that is the level we're at when we are now feeding on ourselves.
Wow.
And it so you know, it's kind of just strange, but not a surprise to me that is the story that you're talking about, which is somebody who happens not to be a journalist is visiting violence on a journalist, while other journalists stand by. And here you have a case of this person taking this the distance and threatening the life of a journalist who is on air.
And the fact that he left and came back.
Yeah.
And the entire incident is captured on CCTV.
Whoa.
And
because
he has not been arrested.
And he has not been arrested. So it's a societal illness. Something has happened to the law, to the notions of justice, as we call it, to those who are the guardians of those things. Something has happened to the security arrangements and systems, and we've managed to become immune to these blatant violations of human basic fundamental human rights.
Yeah. I think Ati touches a key thing there when he talks about the desensitization.
Yeah.
We've been totally desensitized.
So
we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on, Ati, hold that thought. Let's take our break, and when we come back, because we touched on the issue of security and the desensitization, we want to look at those two issues in relation to these attacks when we come back.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grand Dance, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing. So it's good to know I have Co-op Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank. And there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Good morning. Grenlek Meter Reader.
Morning, Mr. Meterman. I'm glad I caught you. Last month, I got a very high bill, and I don't understand why.
Last month we were not able to access your meter, so we had to estimate the bill. This will happen if we don't get an actual reading.
So what can I do to ensure that my meter is easily accessible?
Well, you can get your licensed electrician to move your meter outside of the gate or directly in front of the house. That way, I'll have easy access and I won't have to deal with your dog.
Ah, Butch.
Yes, dogs can be a problem sometimes. On one occasion, I was attacked by a dog and police had to get involved. Customers who don't want to cage or tie their dogs should really move their meter and make it easily accessible.
Well, I'll consider that.
Thank you.
GrenLec, energizing our Grenada.
We're back from a first break. Let me introduce you to the suspects who are with us tonight. Bottom left, Beverley Sinclair, the little blue-eyed girl. I'm not even going to ask what are those things on your fingers, but anyhow. Atherton Martin is on the right, at the bottom there, looking like a tourist tonight with that shirt he's wearing. Just above Artie is Catherine Edwards out there in, my God, it's about 25 to 1 in the morning there in England. And Moi in the middle, and off to the extreme left at the top, the lady in New York who is, let me tell you, this lady's making one hell of a sacrifice tonight. Because she swore to me this afternoon that she was going to be watching the Democratic debate tonight. Huh?
Don't worry, the TV is on.
The TV is
It's on?
It's on.
Of course it's on.
Yeah. Well, you can watch it.
If you find her attention a little bit divided, that's why. Anyhow. All right, Bev, take it away, girl. Oh, by the way, Bev, Bev seems to be frozen, but I see that online. Online we're joined by Ryan Jaban is out there in Orlando. Claudette Joseph, I can't believe it. Claudette's with us tonight. Fitzroy Adams is with us. Arthur Langine, Samantha McFarlane. Kelamedi Lave is in Switzerland. And Claude Pudner, John Kennison. A whole lot of people. Nice of you guys to join us. Take it away, Bev.
Yes, and are there any comments you want to share with us from our Facebook crew?
Well, there are a few comments, but they're a little bit late now. John says, bad behavior begets bad behavior. Arthur is apologizing for being late. John says, I bet they'll have an investigation, blah, 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 blah. This is about the incident you were talking about with the reporter. Samantha McFarlane is saying good evening, so is Ryan Jaban. Ryan says, assaulting a woman is not acceptable. No kidding, Ryan. No kidding. You noticed. Thank you, my friend. Fitzroy Adams says abuse of power and victimization of this government minister is becoming a pattern. Artie, John here is responding to something you were telling that story about what happened at the reporter's office, the studio earlier on today. He says, Artie, there must be a lot more behind this story.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I can give you.
Okay, and Ryan Jaban says, Eastern Caribbean folks need conflict resolution help. Do we ever? Claudette Joseph, she's just tuning in. Good to see you folks. There you go, Bev.
Yes, so welcome back to all our listeners and viewers and all those who have joined us in all the various forums for this discussion. We have been looking at, for the first part of this show, an attack on a male journalist in Grenada by no less than a senator, a lawmaker in our upper house of parliament, someone who is a pastor, who it is reported that he shoved her to the ground and proceeded to verbally abuse her, calling her a liar and trying to rebuke the devil that he said was possessing her. How he knew that, I I tried calling him today, actually, I really tried to reach Senator Garway today, but of course my efforts at all the telephone numbers that I know where I should be able to reach him, all those efforts were unsuccessful
I also tried to
because,
reach Callistra and I couldn't reach her.
okay, well, I did get in touch with Callistra, not today. I spoke with her on Tuesday when I heard of the incident. And I have tried to get in touch with Senator Garway, but maybe I have to show up somewhere where he can beat me if I want.
Did you did anyone try to get in touch with the actual person?
Callistra
Yes,
is
I
the
did.
person.
Yeah. Did you get any response from her? Oh,
She was not
Yeah.
answering her phone when I called. Up to today, I called her 3 times.
yeah. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Wow.
I managed to speak with her on Tuesday, and the report that she posted publicly is right along the line of what she told me happened. And I, I, I admired her because there were people in various parts of social media inflaming the story and adding all kinds of things to it. And she came out and she said she has seen these stories, she's heard these rumors, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The bones of the story, and this is what happened. And say, look, just leave out all the other stuff, all of the other stuff didn't happen. And she's not associated with anything else that is being said besides what she posted. So I admire her for that. I don't, from what I read, I don't think she tried to embellish the story or anything. She just told it as it is. But I did try to get in touch with this. That didn't happen. And I will still try and get in touch with him because for me, this is a very, very grave issue. And I would like to know if the devil had possessed him for him to behave like that, or just for him to give his side of what exactly went on here. Because she didn't threaten him in any way. He was not in any danger. No, I mean, he was not exposed to any kind of threat or danger. So why did he turn on her like that? I'd really love to talk to him, and I hope at some point we will connect. And I don't mean, any type of violent connection. I just mean connect via telephone, and we can speak. And I certainly hope I'm not verbally abused on the telephone, because I'm not going to stand for that.
John is his usual perceptive self to recognize that there's a backdrop to the Dominica incident, and I'm sure there's a backdrop to the Grenada incident as well that you are trying to uncover. The backdrop doesn't make the story any nicer, I'm afraid. The backdrop is very simply this: there was a shooting incident on the streets of of the capital this morning. A police officer was in an accident with a motorcyclist. He was driving his car and he got into a vehicular accident with a motorcyclist. The motorcyclist was upset and attempted to assault the driver of the vehicle, who was a police officer not in uniform. He didn't realize it, so he attempted to assault the driver of the vehicle, this police officer, who shot him twice. So that was a major mourning incident, and the perpetrator of the attack on the Q95 journalist is a journalist from the DBS radio, which is less than 100 yards from the site of that incident, that shooting incident. and he actually produced a voice account of that incident, which he sent out to apparently his to friends, and the friends actually sent it out to viral. It wasn't a fully professional report, but it was okay. It could pass, and it eventually got to the guy at Q95 radio station. And knowing and recognizing the originator of the story as being a fellow journalist, he basically just played it on his program. He said, hey, because he was following the incident live through phone calls and so on and whatnot. And so he just played it. The guy came to the radio station, and the pretext of his attack, or the rationale for his attack, according to what he says, was that Matt had no right to play his report on the radio station. Now, that report had already gone viral. And that is how Matt had got access to it. Normally, two journalists would have been able to sit down and say, hey, okay, look, okay, do you want to come and sit with me and you can clarify, because it's all unfolding. It's live, it's unfolding. No. And that is when, instead of doing that, taking that mature approach, his response was to attempt to visit violence on his colleague. Why does something like that happen? I really don't know. Nobody's inside of the people's brain. I guess if the pastor from Grenada was here, he would say this boy is possessed with the devil, and he would try to exorcise him. But that, there's tension, there's stress all over.
No, but at the back up a little.
Uh-huh.
So here is a journalist who made a report, published it to certain people,
right?
And then he gets upset to the point of killing someone when it's played on the air.
Right. Exactly. These are the bare facts. Now, what's behind that? He's working. The only thing is he's working at a state-owned radio station, and this other guy who played his voice piece is working on a private-owned station, which is quote-unquote seen as the opposition radio station.
But an accident in the street doesn't have anything to do with politics. It's an accident.
You sure?
Oops.
Don't be so sure.
Well, let me say, if it's an accident, it can't have anything to do with politics.
Yeah, if it is an accident,
Yeah, so let's put it that way.
The reaction of the police force to the incident, to the accident, the deputy of the police force was on site with people in SSU uniforms, and a significant portion of the area cordoned off. That is not the normal police reaction or response to an accident.
So what was that all about?
But didn't you say that one of their own was involved in it?
That's right.
So hence the reason why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be as simple and straightforward as that, but we don't know for sure. But in any
they
case,
tend to react when their own are like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because one could argue that the police overreacted, the policeman overreacted, but we don't know. But in any case, a report has been made to the police station by the journalist who was attacked. We subsequently, just this evening, I'm hearing that the perpetrator issued an apology.
Oh. You apologize for threatening to kill somebody? That's how it works?
Yeah, and I don't get, to me, if somebody uses your story, I could understand if the person, I can understand your anger if the person uses it and doesn't give you any credit for it. I don't see how it reaches to the point where you literally want to kill this person for the use of a story.
Exactly.
It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Makes no sense.
Makes no sense. And a lot of things happening in our region nowadays don't seem to make any sense according to normal logic. But maybe there's another kind of logic at play that we really have to uncover and discover. And I'd certainly like to share a couple other stories from Dominica that suggest that there's a really kind of a strange, convoluted logic that appears to be the case in terms of business and trade and commerce and finance. It's seeping through even our response to the Bahamas situation, etc., etc. So we need to take a hard look at these things because we can't just continue. It's not business as usual, not even with climate. So we've got to make some changes, don't we? So I think the stories that are unfolding here would seem to suggest that.
Oh dear. But we have to a little, as you mentioned, response to the Bahamas. What has Dominica's response been?
Well, the officially, there's been all the usual expressions of whatever, and the government has set aside $100,000, which basically they've said that they will send. They've opened an account in the National Bank, asking people to put their money there. It's interesting. Anyway, I'll get to the reaction of the public to that. That same radio station, Q95, has did a radiothon and raised $30,000 from ordinary people, which is going to go to an identified charity for use in the situation. And various professionals are on standby. Based on the determined need and request, either officially through CARICOM or SIDEMA or through their respective associations. There are professionals, medics and firemen and linesmen and water system engineers and so on and so on. Everybody's kind of ready to go, waiting for, okay, come.
And talking about which, there's another system that's developing that seems to be following the same track again.
Bahamas is going to get a lot of rain this weekend.
Yeah,
Grand Bahamas and Abaco.
Well, my response is get all the survivors off the island with haste.
Yeah.
The place already mashed up.
It's deadly.
So just get the people out and let the rain and the wind and anything stay over there because there is nothing to save. There is no property to save. There's just nothing there worth risking life for. So the people who are alive on those islands, for heaven's sake, get them out.
Yeah.
Get them to somewhere where it's safe. I can't see why that is so difficult.
But I think it's the human thing, It's a human thing to want to hold on to what you know and what you think you have in the face of everything else. There are some people who will hold out. You just can't.
But you're homeless. The reality is, this was your home, and it's hard to see it in shambles. But you're homeless.
Yeah.
You can't live there anymore. You don't have a roof over your head. You don't have a bed. You have nothing. So just leave it. I'm not going to say just let it go. Just leave it and go. Mm-hmm. At some point, you'll be able to come back to the spot and start rebuilding. But not now.
Easier said than done, Bev.
I know it is, Margaret. But in these circumstances, you cannot leave it up to the person to get up and go. Yeah. You have to physically lift them up and take them out. And that is the reality.
It appears that there's a lot more people who want to get out of there than those who have been able to be taken out. There's a lot of people who want to leave.
Yes.
And there are a lot of them with families elsewhere, like in the US and so forth. It's interesting to watch the U.S. administration's attitude and response. You know, they're really still guarding their
Oh dear.
borders, and so. But the question,
Nothing less was expected of
but the
them.
question arises: is there room for a regional response? You know, we're talking about maybe 50,000 people. Um, you know, in other words, is this part of our disaster response strategy? That is, are we ready in case we have to evacuate an entire island? Take Dominica. Dominica has 9 active volcanoes. If one of those, God forbid, begins to misbehave, which is overdue according to the seismic unit in Trinidad, where do we go?
Well, that is an issue I have raised, you know. And I look at the Bahamas and I say, you know, there would be a lot of tongue wagging, a lot of naysayers, a lot of people who will have opposing views, and that is fine. But you have islands that have all been wiped out and people have nowhere to go. Why can't you close schools and convert the schools into dormitories? Red Cross and all of these organizations will give you bed and other necessities for soul. And just get the people off the island with the stinking bodies and all the rubble. Close the schools. None of the students from preschool to university are going to be any worse off if they don't go to school for a month or two, or even for the rest of the year. Why can't they take a decision like that? I mean, I say it's not rocket science. It's a school is the only place you have where you can move people in mass, and that is what you need. But you have one section of people going to school as if all is fine. And right next door, you have thousands of people who night is coming now, rain falling, they don't have a roof over their head. Close the damn schools and convert them into dormitories until you can sort the people out. This is an emergency.
But Bev, this is not unusual.
But I'm gonna open a can of worms.
Open it.
My can of worms that, you know, I think everybody is skirting around. I think part of the problem with the response there has to do with who are the most affected. And the most affected by this on that particular island are largely undocumented Haitian immigrants.
Not really. Not really. You're talking about the people in mud? Yeah.
All of them. All of them did. Sorry, Margaret.
Yeah.
All of them.
Gosh, Bev, don't say that.
Yeah.
It's a fact. It's a fact. The few people from those areas which were occupied by the Haitians, the undocumented Haitians, very few survived. Because as far as even if they had enough warning of this monster hurricane, they had nowhere to go.
Yes.
So they were covered in their little houses that they built, the little huts, the little whatever.
I'll call you afterwards.
And them and the hut blow it. It sounds harsh, but that's the reality, Margaret.
Yeah,
they
but
are gone.
They huddled there largely because many of them were afraid to go to shelters for fear that they would be deported.
Exactly.
And in fact, the Bahamian government addressed that fear finally yesterday or today, saying that all undocumented people, it doesn't matter who you are, you will be granted, relief to come into shelters and whatever. So that is part of the reason why a whole lot of people just did not go. I have a friend who works in disasters and has worked in both the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos with similar situations. And she had said to me that the Haitians generally, in situations like this, don't go to shelters for fear of being deported.
Yeah.
So that is basically, one of the issues there.
The can of worms is bigger than that. The
Hmm.
can of worms is what have we as a Caribbean region done with regard to the situation in Haiti and the massive migration of Haitians throughout the Caribbean.
I agree. I agree with you
And
100%.
okay, so if we start there, then we can get to the point where we can say there would therefore now have to be arrangements for regularizing or regulating, and so it would be in the system. But if it has to be dependent upon an ad hoc announcement or an ad hoc response, we're always going to have these disasters
It cannot
impacting
work.
the
It
most
cannot work.
vulnerable. And
And you see,
but there's another part to your can of worms. As the Haitian population in the Bahamas, they held positions that are absolutely critical to the tourism industry,
Yes, very true.
and without them,
It wouldn't
the
function.
resorts would not be able to be
Well,
restored.
it's a similar situation to the illegal immigrants that Trump likes to diss in the
Correct.
United States.
That's the part of
These
the
are the
issue.
people who work the jobs
Hmm.
in the meat factories so that people here can get their meat, cheap.
Yeah.
These are the people who deal with all the chemicals to pick
Hmm.
all the strawberries and the
In the
tomatoes
fields,
and
yes,
everything
right.
else in the fields that you want. And mind
Hmm.
you, it's not just the parents. The kids are also there as well, and they
True,
track them
true,
all up. So yes,
true.
the same illegal immigrants, the
Yeah.
same undocumented people that the nationals of these countries would like to diss are the
Yes.
people who are literally keeping these countries afloat and their economies afloat, because in
It's
most
like
cases they are doing the jobs that
Mhm.
regular citizens will not do or do not want to do.
we have Margaret here, not we have Catherine here.
Hmm.
It's like we as West Indians who went to England and took jobs that residents would never take, but built systems that worked for England and were critical to the railroad, critical to the post office, critical to wherever. So in other words, is humankind engineered in a way that we have to be burnt, literally burnt, before we use a brain that we have to figure out or to project what is likely to happen and to deal with it? And that's the issue I keep raising. Is that is we can be in reaction mode, emergency mode, disaster response mode, or we can mitigate the impact of disasters by doing things in normal times that would actually not see a mud, but would
but the
see people
problem,
fully
the problem,
integrated and incorporated into
I
all.
think,
Yes.
I think the problem is in normal times, we do not plan. We do not put systems in place. We do not clean the drains until it starts to rain.
I know. But
We don't.
we can keep avoiding this, but societies that work, like Singapore, like Holland, etc., they have learned not to do that.
Exactly.
Yes,
They have
yes.
learned to fix
But
things
look
before they break.
look at this situation now with the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Open the can, and we're gonna keep opening it wider.
Mm-hmm.
All know the history of the Bahamas, that the Bahamas does not welcome immigrants.
True.
Bahamas tried to keep the Haitians out by declaring that they will not participate in the CSME, the Caribbean Single Market, and the free movement of people. They said we will not be a part of this. Obviously, that did not work, because now they end up with a lot of undocumented people in the country and understating the death toll because they are ashamed to admit that they had all these people here. And everybody skirting around the issue and calling some numbers which we know are ridiculous because they are ashamed. So during good times when the Bahamas was supposed to be figuring out how to deal with immigration, and it's not just the Bahamas, it's a CARICOM-wide issue where we like to treat each other as if we are foreigners.
True.
All of us born and grow on a little sandbank, and when you want to move from one to the other, they want to treat you like you're a foreigner, like you don't belong here. My sandbank better than your sandbank. I don't want you over here. And if we had put in a system of inclusion, there would not be thousands of undocumented people in the Bahamas that they cannot now give account for. They do not know how many have been lost. But a whole community, which according to reports on the ground, probably had 9 or 10,000 people living there. Of 9 or 10,000 people, a minority of them, maybe 1,000 or less, probably would have documentation. No, you cannot come out as a government and say, we have lost 10,000 people, because you cannot say who these 10,000 people are. This is the mess that we are in right now with human lives. Members of the Caribbean community that we all like to glorify and pretend that it is something. This is where we are today with this situation in the Bahamas. Compounded by the fact that we have these people on Abaco and Grand Bahama, which the government seems impotent or paralyzed, unable to find a solution for them, and just have the people there night after night, day after day, without a roof over their head, fighting over food, everything miserable, more people dying because of the conditions that they are in, when there are simple solutions. But because we are a divided Caribbean, Jamaica is right there, the Cayman Islands right there, and we do not hear of these Bahamians themselves choosing to go to these islands, or hear of these islands saying, come. Just this week, Guyana said, they're welcoming all of the survivors of Dorian, Guyana. You and I both know that getting from the Bahamas to Guyana under these conditions, not the easiest thing right now.
But another question I was asking is, even if it was available, do the people from the Bahamas want to go there?
Right, and that is why I
That's the
what I
bigger
was
question.
saying. That is why I said the Bahamians themselves not choosing to go there, and these islands themselves not saying, come here, we welcome you, we have space for you, we understand that you're traumatized.
Yeah, because it's two parts of the same coin. I mean,
yes, it is.
Would go a long way towards, I think, presenting a different proposition. Because there's a sense that they're not even considered Caribbean. If you
exactly, precisely. Would you believe that I was asked by about 3 or 4 people when the disaster happened? I was asked if Bahamas doesn't belong to the USA, like the USVI.
Yeah, that's right.
Asked me that question. And when the first person asked, I was shocked. I said, you really believe that the Bahamas belong to the US? But that kind of, because of the relationship between the Bahamas and the rest of the Caribbean, that is how Bahamas is perceived as being part of the US rather than part of the Caribbean. It's seen, it's a third UVI.
But I would like to go deeper into the can of worms that has been opened, because I think we don't like to do that, and that is why we keep making the same mistakes over and over again. Do we ask that little question? Do we use that word why? Why are hundreds of thousands of Haitians continuing to do whatever it takes, risk their lives to leave that country? Haiti is now a member of CARICOM. CARICOM goes there to hold meetings. Our officials and whatnot, I'm sure they stay in nothing less than 5-star hotels. I'm sure they know we have medical schools in the English-speaking Caribbean. I'm sure they know we have agricultural schools in the English-speaking Caribbean. I'm sure they know that we have people who have talent in administration. In other words, we have certain things that we have learned to do and do reasonably well. But I don't know of any substantive program of cooperation between the rest of CARICOM and Haiti. Because we keep avoiding what we know to be the underlying causes of that problem. A medical system that is completely broken and has resulted in cases of hepatitis, cases of AIDS, cases of tuberculosis, and all other medical conditions that are transmittable, that have made people have a hands-off approach to welcoming patients, etc., into their community. And the question I keep asking is, okay, what has made it impossible for us to have our School of Agriculture, our medical school, our School of Public Administration, our engineering school, etc., have a presence, an extension of those schools in a country like Haiti that could definitely benefit from? We have St. Lucians who speak Patois, we have Dominicans who speak Patois, we have people from French Guyana who speak Patois, and so on and so forth. It's not as if we couldn't be recasting the way in which the Caribbean is perceived and the way in which the Caribbean behaves, so that when we have a disaster like we're now experiencing and seeing in Bahamas, and that disaster is exacerbated by people coming from an island that we kind of embrace, but in kind of an offhand kind of way, because we really haven't taken time to understand it, and that we would not be in this dilemma. We are in a dilemma.
And let me say one more thing before we go to the break. Even when Haiti holds the chair of CARICOM, do not hear the advocacy for Haiti. And I have watched that.
Yeah.
Same old, same old.
Yeah. So we need,
George,
a new approach.
Yeah.
We need a fresh approach.
You don't know how many hurricanes will be coming this season, so you need to be prepared. At Hubbard's Hardware and Building Supply Departments and Food Fair Supermarkets, everything from canned foods, flashlights and batteries, to plywood, tarpaulin, lanterns, roof repair kits, water tanks, etc. are available. For over 90 years, we've helped you prepare for and recover from storms. Hubbard's Hardware, Food Fair Supermarkets, and the Grenadian General Insurance, an integral part of your hurricane preparedness plan.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
In our part of the world, we need to be prepared for natural disasters like storms and hurricanes, even outside of the season. I'm sure you'll agree that keeping our loved ones, homes, and businesses safe is important. So, I came up with a few quick tips to help you stay safe. First, make a family disaster plan and ensure that everyone in your household is familiar and comfortable with it. Remember to add batteries and flashlights to your emergency kit. Now, for electrical safety. Familiarize yourself with your electrical panel, as it may be necessary to switch off the power during a storm or flood. Make sure you install a transfer or isolation switch to prevent your generator feeding electricity to Grenlec's line. If trees are too close to power lines, call Grenlec at 237 for advice. By following these easy steps, you will be well on your way to being hurricane ready. Don't be caught off guard by natural disasters. Prepare now. For more information, visit grenlec.com.
Alrighty, guys. Here's a note from somebody. Benedict Cador says, "But the Bahamas has other islands for the people to go to. It is not like some of the other Caribbean countries that have one main island." What say you?
Those islands are very flat and low-lying and very dangerous. Some of these islands, the highest point is 60 feet. In others, the highest point is 90 feet. That's the height of a 3-4 story building. And that's what happened, even in Abaco and Grand Bahama. The water came right through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a geographic reality. There's a geological reality. We have to,
Yeah.
we have to
I
contend.
dropped out a while ago, so I missed the comeback.
Yeah, the observation was made, I imagine, through a caller to somebody communicating with George, that the Bahamas as a grouping is made of many islands, and so they could have gone to other places. But the observation is made that these
So I am.
Are you there?
Bev is freezing a lot tonight.
Yeah, she's freezing a lot. She's having a bad
Okay.
connection. Yeah.
Okay.
Bad hair
Yeah.
day.
Sure, right.
So who's in charge now?
We all are. We all are. Yeah. We all are when that happens.
Is anyone hearing me in the chat?
Yes, we are.
Doesn't seem.
Oh, you're not hearing us? We're hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, that's great. I dropped out for a while, so I don't know where we are.
So
Well,
just pick up where you left off, Bev.
Yeah.
Okay. When we when we went to the first break, we were talking about the desensitizing with the attacks on the journalists. And we did promise to get back to the desensitizing in the society.
Yeah.
How insensitive people are these days. And I think it's a discussion which is important, even in light of our regression. But that version to talk about the Bahamas, keep not care. Nobody cares if it doesn't come home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Folks,
all right, folks.
we're
Obviously having a really, really tough time tonight with the internet, especially where Bev is here in Grenada. So we're going to ask you to bear with us. Artie, you want to pick it up in the meantime until Bev gets sorted out?
I was going to pick up on Bev reminding us about the more generalized issue of desensitization that has occurred. Whether first of all, that we need to examine, is that a fact? Have we become less sensitive to each other and to our location, our space, our place? The Caribbean has been marketed globally for decades as being a place of friendly people. Everybody knows everybody else, and people look out for each other. That's the imagery. The palm trees swaying in the tropical breezes, and the steel pan, and the rum, and do we believe our own promotional propaganda? Or has something happened in between that has made us not so nice, not so friendly?
Yeah, I think something probably happened in between. Um, and I'm thinking that maybe as we became more quote unquote maybe affluent, and I'm using that loosely, um, or as we have advanced a little bit more and less dependent on the other. I think in the older days, you were dependent on the community, you know, but we were dependent on each other. We didn't have a choice. Today it seems that we may not have a choice, that we have the choice. We have more means. We can go to the United States, we can go here, we can do there, we can get the latest things that come along. And so you find that there's that move away from that community spirit in which we depended on each other, and we sort of think that we don't need the other person because I have, so I really don't need you. I could do it for myself and I could move on. So maybe that's one of the things that's contributing to the desensitization of stuff. Certainly, our leaders and our politicians are not any help because they have only taught us how to be more selfish and greedy. And if you have the saying that children live what they learn, basically what they're learning from their leaders, both political, religious, social, and otherwise, is one of selfishness. And so when they grow up, they just become selfish people because that's what they learn. So I think that has all contributed to the desensitization that you see. And, if it doesn't happen to me, well, I really don't care.
Because,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. See, in my experience growing up, I think something like that was always there, because I remember growing up as a child, and you find you're up against this class system where someone think they are better than you. For example, I grew up with a poor family, and we'll be drinking what we call cocoa tea.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who is drinking Milo and Ovaltine look down on you. That's poor people. And you're made to feel that you are down there, Artie, and you're not up there. They have this class, that is what I grew up with. So you have this kind of it was always there. You have this kind of inferiority. And I thought, well, this, as a child, I said, this is not right, because the cocoa tea is more natural than what you have in your Ovaltine and your Milo. You don't know what's in the Milo when it come back to you. So I find that was better. So this was this class system. People look down on you. I had a cousin next door who I used to go at, yeah? And then she always asked me, what you cooking for dinner? And
cocoa tea.
Listen, guys, what you cooking for dinner? And I said, what I'm cooking for dinner? I said, are you eating that every day? And that make me feel inferior. Very, very inferior. And then another thing, Ati, that we don't have this, is we are ashamed of ourselves and the food that we're surrounded by. We do. I'm going to tell you an experience I had growing up as a child in school. It had one day we had a lunchtime, and we went to school. After lunch, we had the school session. And the teacher, we had the school was open plan. And the teacher was asking, I think, all the students, what did they have for lunch? And all the children was putting up their hand. Chicken and rice, macaroni pie, all the nice things I could think about, they will shout it out. And I know a lot of other students didn't eat that food. And my cousin, who is 2 years younger than me, put up his hand and said, breadfruit and blogger. Just say, fine, fantastic. After school, on our way home, my sister, who was younger than me,
she begs,
confronted my cousin and said, how dare you insult us like this? All these children putting up their hands speaking about nice food, and you with this stupid food, breadfruit and blogger. What's wrong with you? And I sat back out of the crowd, and I looked at them and I said, what? Why should we left to be ashamed of the food that we're surrounded by? And I thought, so we are ashamed of it. That's the children, Hattie. Let me give you one of our adults now.
Yes.
So my cousin, one day I went to my cousin, and around that time was carnival time, and they had this carnival queen contest where we interviewed the carnival queen. We didn't have any TV or anything like that. We had radio. So she was listening to the radio about the carnival queen on the carnival queen interview. So the next day I went to her and I said, how was the carnival queen? She said, this was good, but this particular young lady was asked in the interview, what is her favorite dish? And the young lady said, oil dog. And she said, just imagine oil dog. She couldn't say something like roast chicken or macaroni pie, just oil dog. And that hit me. That hit me really hard, darling. And I thought, wow, what kind of people are we? We are ashamed of ourselves, and we're supposed to celebrate oil dog as a national dish, and that's how we feel about ourselves. As a young person, I couldn't say anything. I don't have to keep quiet. But these are the things I experienced. And I said, this is the underlying matter of us. That's why we can't go anywhere.
For sure, for sure. But
that's my experience.
If you wait long enough, as we have, it's all come full circle.
Yeah.
Because many homes still have a full jar of cocoa sticks.
Yes.
Don't worry, I got my supply.
That's right.
They still look like you.
And I can assure you, this one is
Catherine.
Yes, yeah.
You know.
And Catherine. Yeah, and between Jerry and I on one side and Beverly on the side, she with chocolate tea and we with cocoa tea. It's cocoa tea.
With cocoa tea. That's the best.
But what you've described is that reality that we've become desensitized to. But guess what? It is the wealthy of the world that are looking for these natural foods now.
Of course,
all right. So what appeared to have been an embarrassing thing, is now top of the line.
Oh, of course it is. What is the food chain now?
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you, Bill.
But these are the foods that are now being sold as organic.
Yeah,
of course.
Natural and foods.
For 3 and 4 times the price of the other stuff that the people to hold up their hand and talk about.
But if we were smart, if we had been smart, and if we can still find it within ourselves to be smart, we would go back. Grenada used to be one of the world's largest producers of cocoa in the hemisphere. You had the best cocoa. People used to come to Grenada to learn how to grow cocoa. I remember that. You had some of the highest quality cocoa beans in the world. And the question is, why did we let that go? You have an example of somebody who didn't let it go. You have a plantation in Grenada, which has turned itself into an attraction for visitors based on cocoa and all the byproducts you can get from.
And Ati, you know what? It's a white man that had to come and give us that idea.
Well,
we didn't have this. It didn't generate from us. Someone has to come.
We listened to him.
That's his work.
The idea was coming from locals all the time, but nobody listened to me.
Yeah, I have the idea. Nobody listened to me. I had the idea, but no one listened to me. I had ideas, and that's what we have to base our thing. We don't use our ideas. Ideas that counts, and we don't realize that.
These things, a cocoa stick does not have to be refrigerated for it to last.
Nope.
Okay? If we went back to goblets made out of clay, which is in all our
and it lasts for months.
We need refrigeration for water. Cold water is not good for you anyhow.
I don't know if you had this in Dominica, Athy, but I remember when I was growing up, we had what was called a demijohn.
Yeah, man.
That they would store water in. Did not need a fridge. And that same clay jar you're talking about, you put water in it, it keeps it cool. That's true. You did not need a fridge.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Your friend Ronald Joseph says, "Stop it! You're making me crave for some cocoa tea."
Well, tell him it's available. It's available. You know.
By the way, guys, I wish Jerry would show up because I'm just getting something here on WhatsApp from the owner of a radio station in St. Vincent, Douglas the Freitas. Don't know if you guys know him. But Douglas says that there's been a shooting in Richland Park, and that's in St. Vincent. One person dead.
Oh
Wow.
dear.
You see the new reality, the new norm that we're becoming desensitized to?
Right, right. That's exactly it. Okay, in days gone by, somebody got killed, everybody would be, it would be shock and awe basically.
Yeah.
And now, and it's funny because I mean, for me personally, I think it came from my living in the US, certainly, and just being exposed to hearing that all the time, that after a while you just write it off. But certainly it was not the same in the Caribbean. And now it's kind of like just, it's another day in the neighborhood.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh boy.
And, and in the meantime, international global science, like the International Panel for Climate Change of the United Nations, keeps coming up with findings. And you know what those findings tell us? Those findings tell us that the quality of life, the quality of water, the quality of air, the quality of fresh food, and so forth, lifestyle issues of cooking fresh and so on, that we used to have, those are the measures that are required to address this problem of climate change. We used to eat meat sometimes, maybe once a week, beef, and during the week you would have, buljao and
fish or something like
fish,
that.
Yeah.
But so they said one of the things that would significantly reduce the progress of climate collapse would be a reduction in the consumption of meat, because it requires so much land, so much corn, so much. Look at what's going on in Brazil, in the Amazon. It's driven by the need to produce more meat. So the question for us as islanders is there something that we have to teach the rest of the world that we're missing? Look at little Singapore, that was able to do some things that are lessons for the world. What is it we need to be doing? Not festivals and siwu and things. We could do that too.
No, we have also been desensitized from working, Aki.
Yeah.
And the only way we are going to get from where we are to where we are supposed to be is to get back to work. But we have a culture now where people do not work.
People are told not to work because of politics.
They are told not to work.
It does.
And that's why agriculture is where it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what science you apply to agriculture. You have to go into the field and work the field.
For sure.
Guys, you may want to add this thought here. Benedict Cador says that the TV shows have played a part in the desensitization of our people. Agreed?
Huh? I didn't hear that, George.
Benedict Cador says that television shows play a part in the desensitization of our people.
I agree, because of the cultural penetration. We all grew up with our little white dolls and we wanted to be white girls.
Uncontrolled television, uncontrolled.
But I think it has been uncontrolled across the region since I was a child.
For a while.
I grew up watching foreign shows on TV. It's when I became an adult, I found myself wanting local programs. The only local thing you got for years was nothing more than a little piece of what they call news. Nothing else.
Because we're not creative, you see. We sit down and it's easier for us to look at someone else's ideas
It
facing
is.
us.
It's
No,
not that we're
Catherine.
not creative. It's that we're not listening to the creative persons in our midst.
In our
Yes,
society.
darling. Yeah.
And it comes back to what Catherine said, and it comes back to what I said. Catherine says we are ashamed of ourselves, and we are. So we do not want to produce our dasheen and our cocoa and our yam and our oil dung. We do not want to see those.
We can elevate that.
Because we are ashamed of it. You see? And number two, we are lazy. So we do not want to get up and put the work into doing Caribbean productions. And let me say there are some very, very creative Caribbean pieces out there. Because of the desensitization and the foreign culture penetration, things fall by the wayside. If you go to a Caribbean film festival and you see the quality of the films produced by some of these, even some of these very young film writers in the Caribbean, you're amazed. And I sat the other day and watched a new cinema opening in Jamaica, and it's so foreign show them bring for the opening of the cinema. And I said to myself, that is such a sacrilege. You have fine Caribbean films. I've seen them myself. I know they are out there, and you're opening a cinema, and you have to go and get some foreign film to bring. And that's the kind of thing we do to ourselves. So we put ourselves on the back burner all the time because we like it and because we are ashamed of who we are.
But then you look at where the money is going, where the investment capital is going, and it's going into the hands of a few in our various societies that are doing things like building international resorts that are not for us.
Exactly.
While the people in the same communities where those resorts are being built still don't have homes, proper homes, don't have proper facilities, don't have proper roads to their farms, etc., etc. And those people, which now today include some locals who have become quote unquote corporate champions themselves, and now are asking the nation to protect them, to protect their investment. You know, that we should protect their investments, like in the CBI thing, in the same way that we used to protect the banana industry. What sort of madness is this? The banana industry reached thousands of ordinary Caribbean people in the Windward Islands and Jamaica, and changed them, gave them a chance, something to hang on to. The CBI program reaches how many people?
Very few. And you know what? We like to hug up and embrace China. And China is one of the most culturally sacred countries in the world. You go to China, you ain't see no white dolls in them Chinese stores, or no black dolls in Chinese stores. You're seeing Chinese dolls. You're seeing stuff that are indigenous to China. They worship literally their ancestors. Culture in China is a big thing, and it's a one thing that we should copy from China, and we don't. Let's see if we don't.
It says something when a region of the world, a tiny region of the world like ours, used to be at the pinnacle of something like cricket, right? World cricket. For years, we were the best. We were the world champions of cricket. And then look at us today. What does that say about our sense of pride, our sense of ownership of our talent pool, our sense of can do, our sense of a future? What does that do to the young people who look around them and can't see anything that the rest of the world is looking up to us for? Can we turn that around again? Can we become world champions again in selected areas of endeavor? Because without that, our young people will be forever lost. Forever lost. because they
They
don't.
have nothing to aspire to. Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I in Grenada years ago when I left school, I had these dreams and vision because I was 18 years of age and I needed to. I see myself 10 years from now when I'm 28 to be certain things.
Yes.
But then there is no system in place to help you get there.
Yeah.
And then you have this dream and vision to do something with your life, but around you, people, your immediate surroundings, people don't talk about these things. They don't talk about what they aspire to, what they want to be like. They don't have no dreams and things like that. But I have dreams. And then my friends will just talk about boyfriend. And I thought, I'm interested in this.
Come on. You must have had a dream
as a
of
career woman.
To each his own. I mean, everybody has their dreams.
That's fine. Yeah, that's their dream, but that's not my dream. That wasn't my dream, actually. Definitely not. And then I was moving on. And then, you know what? I realized that in the Caribbean, when we leave school, we're not nurtured in a way to complement our nature, to bring out the best in us, to help us realize what our potentials are and what we can do. And we can see the need in our society so we can create that system there. We're not nurtured for that. We're nurtured to be dependent on people so they can dominate us, manipulate us for their pleasure. And you see,
I think, I think
that's in my experience, Mags.
Yeah,
Not everybody, but
one at a time. Go ahead.
Yeah, but where I grew up, this is my experience.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had vision, I had dreams, and I didn't get that nurturing to complement my nature. Okay. That was in my nature. It was just totally against my nature. And I think a lot of experience, a lot of our people experience that. I'm gonna tell you one more thing before I finish. When Karani James got the golden medal in the Olympics in 2012. And they were interviewing, Karani James, and they were interviewing him. You know what he said? He said back home, you see a lot of young people have this potential and talent to be something. And he said they just fall by the way because there was no help for them to move forward. Okay. And I said that is what happened in our country lots of the time.
Mags.
This is what happened. Mags, carry on, darling. Yes.
Mags.
Oh, no. Huh?
Yeah, go ahead, Mags.
No, I was just going to say, I was thinking about the education that I had certainly in my time. I can't speak for now, but certainly people of our time. And I think it was one that was but generally prepared us not to live in our neck of the world, but certainly to live outside. So you were literally prepared in school to live outside of the Caribbean in terms of every single thing that you did. And an example that I always used was geography. And I will always remember the O-level question where they asked me to write about cash crops in the Caribbean, and I went blank. But I knew everything about the Russian steppes and the pampas in Argentina and wheat growing in Canada. Oh yeah, I could have written a good essay on that one. And I certainly did. But I couldn't answer the simple question about cash crops in the Caribbean. But that was the education that I had. That is what it prepared me for. So there was no surprise that for certainly my generation, our goal was never to stay in the Caribbean, but certainly to leave, because that's just what we were prepared for, to leave.
Yeah. There's nothing here for
we need to be sure and to be assure the young ones in our midst that we're not quote unquote advocating a wholesale 360-degree turn, because in the meantime there's certain developments that have occurred in the world, like technologies and so on, that have occurred that could make it easier, make it more possible for us to elevate ourselves, for us to pay attention to processing of local foods and fruits and the production of film and the production of music and so forth. That would have been more challenging 30-40 years ago, but now sitting at home, a group of young people can in fact generate a product. But the question is, what what's coming through their mind's eye is what we're talking about. Can what they generate be a true reflection of who we are, as opposed to a poor imitation of what's in New York, what's in Brussels, what's in this and that. And that's the challenge of the intergenerational link up that we need to make.
You know, and it's funny because you make me want to ask the question after, just based on what you said. Just who are we?
That is the $1 million question. Until we find out who we are, then we will not know where we came from whence we came, and we will certainly not know where we are going. We keep spinning top in mud.
I know who I am.
As a generation, because when we see our little children, our little boys, 6 and 7 and 8 years old, bumping and grinding on the bottom of a big woman in carnival. When we see things like that happening, it's like, okay, is that what we are? That is what we are teaching our 8-year-olds and our 9-year-olds on some 3/4 naked woman behind. And what is he supposed to do with that knowledge? What is the boy supposed to do with that knowledge? Really? So it's a critically important question. Who are we? As a region, as nations, as countries, who are we?
What I can say is we better hurry up and get the answer if we haven't, because in the meantime, who we are is beginning to get mixed up with transgender, etc. issues that are not of our making, but are in our space at this time. With families and communities having to struggle with coming to terms with that, and frankly, all the while getting further and further away from two critical things that will lead us to the answers. One, not only who are we, but where we came from, our ancestral legacy, but where we're going and how we get there. What is the role of that of science and technology in the Caribbean? We have universities, for Christ's sakes, engineering schools. We have access, but where is the science? Tell me where you see the impact of science in our society in a way that is shaping people's lives. Because that is who we are, whether we believe it or not. We are being, but we're not really conscious. Are we using the technology effectively? Are we using it for good? Are we using it to reshape?
We have people, and let me tell you something. As a television producer, I can tell all of you sitting here that you have people at the highest level in this region who you cannot send a Zoom link and have them connect for a meeting or for a broadcast. You just can't. They do not know how to do it. And as someone trying to produce a program, I'm sitting there and I'm wondering, what can be so difficult in clicking a link? I remember trying to get a prime minister in this region to connect virtually. And the question was asked, when everything else failed, and the question was asked, what type of device do you have? The response was a cell phone. I lost it. I'm sorry. I totally lost it. I said, look, somebody else take this over because I can't do this. What type of device you have? A cell phone?
Well, I mean, theoretically,
and
if
this
he had a
no,
smartphone, he could have
no,
done it. Yeah.
no, no, listen. That is why I say this question came at the end of a long, tedious process. When you go through this, when you ask these questions, when you say, touch this, do this, figure this, do that, when you try to single step someone through a process and you're not getting to where you want to go, and you get to the simplest of question, which you probably should have asked first, like, did you not, you know, something like that, because as simple as it is, sometimes you're trying to get someone to do something, and when you ask the question, did you turn on the machine? They're like, oh, no, it's not on. So you have people at the highest level who block the use of technology because they do not understand it themselves and because they are not comfortable with it. So when you talk about things like e-commerce and e-governance, you have executives who sit on top of companies and they do not understand the technology and they're just too big to learn it. So they block the use of it. Progress beyond them with it. They have a so-called IT department, and if you put together a proposal for them and for something you need to improve efficiency or to get to maximize the creativity within the company, it never gets passed. They're not spending the money for it because it just seems like a lot of money to spend for something they don't think it's necessary. So we are way behind on technology, Afi. Way behind on technology.
But it's all around.
And like with other things we discussed earlier, this crop of people who are sitting in the seats of authority now are not going to be the ones to move the process forward because that is not their interest. That is not their focus. And they really do not care how much they are holding the region behind because what they are there for is being satisfied. So they don't care.
Yep. That's a sad state. That's a really sad state. It's depressing to think of it.
Good night to all.
Richardson Franklyn.
Comrade Athy.
How you doing, my big brother?
Good.
Okay.
It's absolutely great to see you.
Did you get permission from your uncle to join us?
Cousin Gigi?
Nice to see you, man.
No, but as far as the technology is concerned, I mean, I have, 2 years ago, I was working in one Caribbean country, and the minister says to me, and don't tell me anything about autonomous vehicles, right? Self-driving vehicles, right?
All right.
If these folks don't understand where the world is going, I mean, I don't see, is there going to be a separate industry for producing the cars of the 20th and 18th and 19th centuries? And we're in the 21st. Look, there are a number of car companies right now saying, hey, look, we're just going to jump straight from these cars into electrics. You know, so rather than have the combined systems, you're just using straight electrics. Because the reality is, you know, companies are beginning to change based on where the world is going. I mean, even T. Boone Pickens, who passed away yesterday, the big oil man, he was a major investor in wind turbines, which nobody knew. But it's just that the world is beginning to go in a different route.
Yep.
Technology.
But it's all there, but it just doesn't seem to be. I could ask the question: how does the fact that we are living in the 21st century, where all this communication technology is existent and it's in our countries, we have some outstanding firms doing this stuff. How did that impact our response to the Bahamas? Our response as a people? Was it, oh boy, oh God, or was it, did it help or did it hurt?
No, I see, again, it's frustrating because there are solutions that we're supposed to have in place, right? And I was in a meeting in one country recently, and same topic came up, and I said, cows and sows. And everybody thought I was being disrespectful. But cows are what we basically call communications on wheels. And sows is satellite on wheels. Now, these are micro devices that you usually could roll into a stadium. So for example, when they have the Super Bowl in up here in our neck, anywhere in the United States, outside the stadium, to keep the communications running, you might bring in a cow or two. So it gives people access to, a number of sites, and, so that is the first thing we need in the Caribbean.
So that could have made a difference.
Well, at least what it does, it allows you, the national leaders in the first instance to communicate with the rest of the world. So, for example, with Dominica and Maria, I think it was, there was no communication, and then it was something about Facebook or something like that. I mean, come on.
I'm telling you.
The national leader is supposed to be able to reach out to other international players and say, look, this is our situation, XXX. So some of the basic technologies we're missing in the area, in the region, sorry. And then the whole idea of the communications infrastructure. People, cheer the whole idea of wireless, but you still need fiber optics as your basic backbone.
Let me ask you a question that has been rolling around in my mind. It's a technology question, but it's a human, kind of a morbid question. We have satellites that can actually zero in down to the square centimeter of land on Earth, to the point where you can identify with things. You have satellites that can actually penetrate the crust of the Earth and in exploration exercises for
Correct.
Are there not satellites that we could have parked over the Bahamas and in less than 6 hours find every human body?
I don't want to venture down that road.
I'm venturing
only because of the small footprint you're speaking about of a human body.
Yeah.
Right. And with satellites, most of the satellites you're talking about, the satellites are fixed. So and they have their region of visibility, their region of coverage.
So it is not possible.
It may be possible, but I am not going to go out on a limb.
Okay. No, I just wanted to ask
because
somebody.
I haven't put it into that morbid thought yet.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean,
one thing we can say for sure is that the technology is certainly there to make that possible.
It could be. I'm not going to say it is. It could be.
Well, I say it is because I can go in a machine and see the tiniest part of any muscle in my body. Machines for that. The technology is there to see that deeply. I go to do a blood test.
I just raise it because I don't know for sure.
No, I agree with you.
No,
I like to speak with surety and not.
No, and that is why I'm telling you I am speaking with surety, because there are things that I see machines look into and ways that I see them, and I'm not talking about piercings. I'm talking about things that I've experienced and interacted with upfront. Machines that can see molecules with a simple microscope. So the technology is there. Would be able to look through all the rubble and see the smallest bit of an atom down there The technology is there, but whether or not that technology has been manufactured in such a way to do that kind of scope of search that you are referring to, Aki, that's another story.
Okay.
That is another story.
No, actually, I'll put it in another way. I mean, let's go with anecdotal evidence. The fact of the matter is that when there's an emergency, most first world countries send out the various dogs and such, you know, to go look for victims. I mean, that if they had the technology, they would use it. I mean, and they would use it in their own countries for one. You know, because to be using a dog, you know, you could only use a dog for so much time before you have to give him a rest.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's a very inefficient way of going about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So you know, but I'm not saying that the technology isn't there. As far as I'm concerned, most likely the technology is there, but I don't know. I couldn't put my head on a block and say.
Yeah. Okay. But
100%.
I would say it hasn't been harnessed. It's going to be another discussion because we are so out of time. And this evening, we spent our time looking at a senator, a journalist in Grenada, and we kind of digressed from that and about the desensitization of people in our societies in the Caribbean. And somehow we got into technology, which is just a part of everything we do today. So thank you, suspects. Great to see you, Richardson. We certainly miss our suspects who were not here tonight. But we look forward to meeting here again next week, Thursday, same time, same place. Thank you, George, as usual, for another great evening on Mek We Chat.